I sell it illegal to people numbing their pain. I'm a little crazy, but the world's insane. I keep a loaded 44 sitting by the bed for the jeepers and the creepers who ain't.
It couldn't have been better than what Randy Houser just delivered. I was talking to Randy out in his bus before the show just about why I love country music, and because no one sings like that anymore. No, they've taken all the talent out of the rest of music and all the talents in country. Tucker, music is so important, I think, in terms of influencing the culture. And Randy has actually been doing the same thing that many of us in the media have been doing. You got to kind of go independent to say what you really want.
Yeah, I think so. I think I was, there's been many times I had like 5 record deals over the years, and it always would end up being some sort of a headbutt about the music that I wanted to make and put out, and what they would support. I had one time, I had an executive pull my radio team off the road because I wouldn't put a song out that they wanted out, and I was like, that ain't me. That ain't what I want to say. That ain't what I want to do. And and those kind of things led me down a path after years of being like, well, screw it. I'll just do that. I've been around long enough. I'll do this my damn self. So it's like, So it's I think it's so important to keep your man alive, to keep your independence, to keep that thing that makes you want to fight, and just keep that thing that drives you. And I think that in those situations where I was like, I started to feel like I was an employee rather than an artist, and I was like, no, hell no, that's not what goes down here, So and it was. For me, it was a huge risk, to try to do things independently, and I know for you guys as well, you're like, well, what if nobody cares, and it's like, it's amazing the things that happen whenever you are really able to speak your mind and talk about the things that affect you and say things that affect others when you're not allowed to in those situations. So that's why we started Magnolia Music. So, yeah.
One last final applause for Randy Houser, because he just gave us the perfect segue. Thank you so much, Randy.
Thank y'all.
That was awesome.
It's the perfect segue into Tucker Carlson. Someone... Bring that other stool over here. I need something for my... There we go.
I had no idea where I was coming tonight. I didn't know. I've been backstage for 2 hours. I didn't know this. I didn't know where we were. Jason Whitlock called me, and I was like, of course, I never asked what we were doing or where we were going, so I just put a tie on. This is so cool.
So how long has it been, Tucker, now that you've left Fox News and went independent, and just how great has that decision been?
Well, just to correct the record, I didn't leave Fox News and go independent. Though I love that. You're such a sweet man. I got fired and found myself unemployed, so I just kind of kept working. So that's... oh, bless you. Thank you. No, I've always had a kind of working man's attitude toward employment. I've always been grateful to have a job. And my schooling career did not suggest great success, so I was always thrilled when someone would hire me. And I spent 28 years at TV networks, and I kept getting fired. And I kept kind of plugging ahead. There were signs that it was not working. But I ignored them. And when I finally got fired for the last time at 54, I was like, well, I'm out of TV networks, so I'm obviously not going to work for a TV network ever again. And And I was forced to not work for a TV network. Probably would have done it until I died. I would have been Larry King, working for RT or something. And but I'm just so grateful. Because I do think God works like that. You know, you in retrospect, you know, you tell yourself a story and other people a story. Like, well, I decided I'm not going to put up with this another day. That's total BS. You know what I mean? It's like literally out of options. I'm on this path by force, and I'm just so grateful to be on it, honestly.
So I've asked Tucker this or talked around this a bit with Tucker about a guy with his background, started out on TV with a bow tie, came across like a Northern California.
Are you daring me? I can't see. Sorry.
Northern California elite. And how do you transition to becoming the voice of the working man and the working class and MAGA? No one would have ever suspected that of Tucker Carlson 25 years ago.
Well, I mean, honestly, I just followed my instincts. I lack all self-awareness, so I can never explain anything about myself because I don't even look in the mirror, as you can likely tell by my haircut. I really try never to think about myself, and I mean that. It's one of my life rules. But so I don't really know how that happened, but I just try to be alive to the reality in front of me and not let my preconceptions blind me to what I actually see. In other words, like you fall in love, and I'm prone to this, fall in love with your ideas. Like you come up with this perfect theory of everything. This is why marijuana is bad for college students, because you kind of figure it all out. Like here's the system that connects everything. And then as you get older, you realize that's not real, actually. Reality falls far short of what you imagined it would be. And your plans don't produce the outcome that you expected at all. And an honest person stops and says, wait, I was wrong. First of all, admits it. Admitting you're wrong is like the prerequisite for becoming fully human, in my opinion. Admitting you're wrong and trying to understand why you were wrong and trying to understand what actually happened. And so I'll just speak for myself. Like all of my ideas, when I first started work in 1991, the year I got married at 22, I had all these ideas, very complex ideas about economics and the world and foreign policy. I read a lot, so I was like way up in my own head. And all of those ideas basically turned out to be like absurd. And the country that I grew up with is gone. And how did that happen? And so I just want to be, I'll just stop with this, but I just want to be really clear. I am hardly the voice of the working man. Oh my gosh. I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but I didn't grow up in a working class family like at all. So I never want to pretend that like my dad was a coal miner or a steel worker from Indianapolis or ran a bar or whatever, because that's just not true at all. So I don't want to be a poser or pretend to be something that I'm not, but I always want to be honest and say that the people who literally built this country have been shafted in a way that's criminal. And it's only because they're such decent people. It's only because they're mostly Christian people and because they're American people and therefore kind of sweet and optimistic and cheerful and sort of nice that they haven't revolted. You know what I mean? For the same reason that, and you and I have talked about this, but our leaders have spent the last 40 years like trying to convince us to hate each other on the basis of race. And Americans have been incredibly heartwarmingly resistant to doing that. They just don't want to do that, actually. They just don't want to. They want to see each other as individuals, and by and large, they still do, despite a lot of incentive not to. A lot. Our leaders are like, no, go have a race war, and ignore the fact that we're stealing everything. That's what they want. And Americans are just so nice. They're like, no, I don't really want a race war, actually. You know what I mean? And so and God bless them for not wanting that. And a lot of other things are still really nice to each other. They're still really nice to their leaders, nicer than their leaders deserve, in my opinion.
So how did it happen? How did we get here? Why are we in such chaos and dysfunction?
Well, I mean, there are all kinds of like procedural answers to that. I mean, all kinds of, letting China in the WTO and, all kinds, NAFTA and all, you could give a pretty precise answer, but the real answer is deeper and simpler than that. And it's that the people who ran the country didn't love the people who lived there. And that is the basis of good leadership. And also, by the way, it's your duty. It's the last commandment, love each other. In case you don't remember the end of John, love each other. That's the last commandment. And the most important one, love each other. And that's particularly important for leaders. It is the prerequisite for good leadership. A father who loves his children will not be a perfect father. He'll be good enough. And by the way, I was a father young at 25. I had 4 kids, when I was young. I had 3 kids by like 31 or something. No idea how to raise them. I had grown up in a fractured family. I had no idea. And I don't think I did a perfect job, but I really love my kids. And my wife really loved our kids, and so our kids are great. That's enough. No, what I'm saying is, that's enough, is that you love your children. And that's true in every form of leadership, whether it's at the company you work for, the military you serve in, or the nation you were born in. If your leaders really care about you, then you'll be okay. And if they don't, you won't. And what does it mean to love someone? Again, this is from the end of John. I can't believe I'm quoting John. I'm hardly a theologian. I just read this, though, and it's sticking with me. What's the measure? That you'll lay down your life for the people you love. That is the measure. It's laid out for us as simply as can be. A leader who loves the people he leads will lay down his life for them. And leaders who are unwilling to do that will hurt the people they lead. It's that simple. And we just don't have those leaders.
And so one of the things I loved about you on Fox News and love you on the Tucker Carlson network is you're the happy warrior. You love to laugh. You mix in the humor. And I'm more cynical and a bit more dour. And it's a sin. It's not a virtue. Obviously, it's a sin to be cynical. But I do worry, and I'm sure many people in this audience worry, do you think our problems are fixable? Have we gone too far to where we can't ever make America great again?
Well, let me just say one thing about cheerfulness. I have a dark Scandinavian soul. And I am a brooder. My father, who grew up in a Swedish-speaking family, would always say of his family and of Swedes and Scandinavians, Northern Europeans in general, they drink in silence and stare out morosely at the sleet and feel sad. And that kind of is my default position, and so my cheerfulness is an act of will, because I think we are required to be cheerful in the face of suffering and adversity. And you wake up some mornings and you feel like this is not fixable, and things really are ending in a really ugly way. The empire's collapsing, and it's bad. And I think it's our job to put on a happy face and pretend everything's fine. I'm a huge believer in pretending everything is fine. I mean it. I am. I really am. I admire, above all, the guys who played Dixieland on the deck of the Titanic as it sank beneath the waves in the Irish Sea. So I do feel like that's because, and really this is a Christian principle, if we think that the world is controlled by dark forces and always has been, okay, we can't be shocked when we see evil things. That's the state of play. That's the baseline. That's par, as you golfers say. And so we know that. You can't be shocked by it. But we have a greater hope, and that should be manifest on our faces with cheerfulness. So anyway, I make myself do that. Have we gone too far to make America great again? Is it fixable? This is something I brood on every morning, including this morning when I left Maine this morning at 3:15. Walked outside. It was so cold when I walked outside in the mid-30s. I tried to get my dogs to go out and take a leak with me, and they were like, no. And they got back into bed with my wife. But I was thinking about this at 3:15 this morning, and my thought was that sorry, that was vulgar. I'm sorry. I am vulgar. That's my other fault. One of many. But anyway, no, but I was thinking about this, and it's like, yeah, these events are beyond the control of any one person, certainly beyond my control. That's another thing I remind myself every day. I'm not in charge. I can't control this. It's important to know the limits of our own power. it's when we don't ignore them, it's called hubris, and that destroys us. So like, I'm not God, I'm not in charge, I can't affect the outcome I desire. Okay, let's just start there. Incremental improvement is good, and we should celebrate it. But I'm thinking like, can this be fixed? And I'm like, what I can control is how I feel and how I act and how the people around me are doing. My children, my wife, my employees, my siblings, my college roommates, the people I actually come into contact with every day. And I can try to make their world better, and all of us can do that. And even in times of like true suffering, like the historic pivot points that you read about, whether it's 1066 when the Brits are kind of sitting there and the French come in and kill everybody, you know what I mean? Or the mid-5th century when Rome falls, or whatever moment that we look back on and think, wow, that must have been horrible and chaotic. There were still happy people raising decent children. Like, you have to think about it on that level. You can't, one of the reasons I really try and stay off the internet, it's not possible, but I really, really try, is because you wind up externalizing everything. You wind up getting so upset about something that's happening in a sphere you can't control that you miss the beautiful things that are happening in your house. My wife doesn't do this. Like, she listens to the Hallow app, and that's it. Like, that's it. That's the only media she consumes. It's like people talking about Jesus. That's it. And so she's always in a good mood. She's not worried about going to war with Iran. I'm like, if they hit the nuclear sites, it's going to be a third world war. And she's like, what? It doesn't intrude because she's not in charge of whether we hit Iran's nuclear sites. And she knows that, and I somehow think I am. So it's just so important to remember the limits of our power and that God's task for each of us, our duty, every single one of us, is to the people in front of us who we can see and smell. The people we're actually responsible for are right there. So don't look past them onto people you've never even met before and imagine your duty lies there. No, your duty is right here. One person at a time, usually in your own home or your own workplace or next to you in church. Those are the people you're called to love. And if you reorient yourself in that way, Rome can fall, but as long as you're doing your duty to the people in your path, you're going to be okay.
If you're still tossing and turning all night and feeling edgy during the day, let me tell you about CBD from CBDistillery. Millions are turning to their CBD for relief because it works. In fact, more than 90% of customers report better sleep with CBD, and it's not just sleep. CBDistillery offers targeted formulations for just about everything: sleep, stress, mood, focus, pain, after exercise. They even have CBD for pets, and it's all made with the highest quality clean ingredients. No fillers, just premium CBD. After a long night, I love taking the sleep gummies from CBDistillery. You guys know, after roll call, I struggled with, I got sick, and part of it was I wasn't sleeping well before a roll call. I was under so much stress, and we were doing so much, and that's why I'm glad I've been able to turn to CBDistillery and their gummies. It has helped me sleep. It's why I've been able to recover and do shows this week. Thank you, CBDistillery. And with more than 2 million satisfied customers and 100% money-back guarantee, CBDistillery is the source to trust. If you're struggling with sleep, stress, or other health concerns and haven't found relief, make the change like millions are to CBD from CBDistillery. And for a limited time, you can save 25% off your entire purchase. Visit CBDistillery and use the promo code FEARLESS. That's CBDistillery.com, promo code FEARLESS. C is in cowboy, B is in boy, distillery.com. Specific product availability depends on the individual state regulations. Thank you, CBDistillery.
The other thing that you're doing by being a happy warrior is you're demonstrating courage. And courage is in short supply among men, and that courage is like at the root of Trump's popularity. He stared down a bullet, got upset, fight. Even people that hated him like, man, that's courage. I don't see much of that anymore. And so I look at President Trump, I look at Elon Musk and the risks that he's taking. I look at the risks that you know you're taking. And hopefully other men are looking at you guys and being inspired and encouraged, because a lack of courage, the cowardice of men, has ruined America. We're not willing to die for anything, and I connect a lot of that. You listen to my show, I connect. Well, if you're a godless country, and you think this is it, then of course you're not going to be as courageous as people who thought, hey, I'm going to heaven. I'm making this sacrifice for my kids and grandkids, and I'll be in heaven. But it's the lack of courage of men in particular that's destroying America.
I couldn't agree more. The bravest thing I ever saw in my young life was my junior year in college. I got a call from my stepmom saying, your father has throat cancer and he has emergency surgery. He got a tracheotomy, couldn't breathe. He has a baseball-sized tumor in his throat, and he's undergoing surgery. So I immediately flew home. My brother flew home, and we wind up at Sibley Hospital in Washington, D.C., where we lived. And my father is getting wheeled out of the OR. And he's lying on a gurney, and he's got a hole in his throat. He can't talk. And we know he's going to die of throat cancer. He's got advanced throat cancer, okay? And we're crushed. And my father was he's our hero. And he walks out, and he smiles at us, and they're pushing his gurney down the hallway. And I watch his eyes, and he looks at my stepmom, and he sees her butt, and he reaches off the gurney and just grabs her butt like that. And I thought, that's a man right there. That's a man right there. He's staring down both barrels of an early death, and he sees his wife's butt, and he takes a moment to appreciate it. That is courage in the face of imminent death. And I'm not joking even a tiny bit. I started crying out of respect for him. And I think that cheerfulness in the face of distress is the maximum expression of courage. Hours before he was tortured to death, Jesus had dinner with his closest friends. There's nothing I admire more than that.
So, anybody that's played close attention to you over the past 20 years, in the last 5 to 7 years, your wife seems to have had great impact on your understanding of the good versus evil battle we're having. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and you actually had a big effect on me, which is why I didn't even ask. That's why I was wearing a tie, because I literally didn't even ask you what we were doing or where we were doing it. I thought we were like at a church or something. I don't know. I didn't realize we were in a bar. I love this. And it was out of gratitude that I came without even asking, because you are one of the people, and I'm not just saying this as flattery because we're on stage with microphones. I really mean this. I've told you to your face. I had you on because I thought you were smart and interesting and something, new to say about whatever the news of the day was. But you were the person who fearlessly framed what I thought were political battles as what they really were, which is manifestations of the ongoing, everlasting, eternal spiritual battle that's all around us, unseen, but manifest in every way, every day in our lives. It's a spiritual battle. And you said that. And I was like, whoa. And you just threw it out there. You weren't like, all right, actually, this is a spiritual battle. It's like, yeah, these are demonic forces, obviously. And now that's a very common thing to say. You were the first person I heard say that. I was like, did he just say that? Can you say that on Fox? Because they are, I will say, I'm not just pointing to that one network, but all the networks. Like, they're touchy about certain things, like obviously Zelensky's a hero or whatever, the fad of the moment is that you have to play along with or get fired, it turns out. But the one thing that they're always touchy about, every one of them, and they never say it out loud, but you feel it really strongly, are expressions of sincere Orthodox Christianity. They really don't like that. They really, really hate that. And you sort of wonder rationally why. The world's largest, only nonviolent religion that teaches people to love each other, like get married and have children and raise them. Like, oh wow, that sounds scary. The only religion that's against human sacrifice? Why are we mad at them? I mean, it tells you a lot. How could you be mad at a religion like that? tells you a lot about you if you're mad at that religion. But anyway, they are mad at that religion, and you're not allowed to say stuff like that. And you said it like it was a totally normal observation. Like, well, of course, these are demonic forces, duh. And that just blew me away. And I got off the air, my producers are like, demonic forces? Like, who is this guy? And I was like, I love him. And that really had an effect on me. I mean it.
It's the only explanation for the love affair with abortion. It's the only explanation for the love affair of cutting balls and breasts off of little kids. I mean, because I sitting around and giving it a lot of thought. How did we get here? Well, this has got to be good versus evil. And I believe, in my view, once you started going down that spiritual path, that's what got you at odds with Fox News. They just weren't going to have that.
Well, they don't, again, it's not something that we should be surprised by, but I'm one of those people who's like eternally surprised. Like, I just can't believe it. Like when my dogs eat every evening and I watch it, they get the same meal every day. It's actually dog food. And every day my dogs are like, are you freaking kidding? Dog food? Oh! And they're like shocked. I can't believe they got dog food again. They're so excited. And I'm that way. I'm like, I can't believe how evil that is, like every day. And like a deeper person, like my wife would be like, yeah, what did you think? Like, duh. But I am eternally surprised. And I do think the measure is how you respond to Christianity. Do you see, in what conceivable way could Christianity be a threat? Well, because it's true, that's why. And what I realized over time, 30 years, 35 years now of doing this, is that it's never the lies that get you in trouble, ever. If I went out there and said, I think the earth is flat, people would be like, okay, lay off the weed. Because nobody actually thinks the earth is flat. But if I say something that is true, and everybody knows it's true, and our whole society is organized to pretend it's not true, that gets me in trouble. So why is our whole society and every society organized to pretend that true things are false? Why is the truth hated? You would think people would, because the truth, by the way, what's that famous phrase? You hear the truth once and you know it's true. Lies have to be repeated endlessly in order to convince you. That's right. That's actually right. Why? You'd think we would all be so thrilled to hear something that's true, that's real. But we're not. And I'm not, by the way. As I would always tell my children, if you're going to insult somebody, don't be too honest. Don't call the fat girl fat. That's mean. No, I'm serious. I would tell them that. Like, as we say, the truth hurts. And the truth hurts our leaders more than anything. And if you want to know, I used to joke about this with my staff for many, many years. Like, you run around doing all these segments and kind of see how far you can go, And every once in a while, man, it's like going to the dentist. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you have an exposed nerve there on bicuspid number 3. Yeah. Whatever the issue was where they would, a hurt dog barks, wherever they would bark, you'd be like, oh, that's the truest thing. That's the truest thing. And of course, I would continue to stab the nerve night after night with the ice pick of truth. Anyway, but what they hate is the truth.
So part of the hate that I receive, and I think you get a bit of this too, but in a different way, is my argument is that America's narrative arc isn't a story about look how racist America is. It's actually look how Christianity helped America conquer its racism. And it's like if you start to try to have a discussion about the real problems impacting Black Americans in this country, and it's the destruction of family, and they're trying to destroy all families in America. The Black Americans just happen to be the lab rats, and we can't, for some reason, have that conversation about the destruction of families at the root of all these pathologies. The only thing the media allows us to talk about is racism. And that's why we can't fix anything. And so I try to get people to understand that from a biblical point of view, God designed man follow God, woman follow man that's following God, nurture and develop the children. That's what God prescribes. And America is turning away from that. Black Lives Matter made that perfectly clear. They want to destroy the nuclear family. But they've rigged up this social media matrix and the legacy media in a way that makes it very difficult for us to have these conversations. And that's why I go around telling everybody, white dudes, black dudes, you got to say the most uncomfortable truths. You got to say the truest things and quit worrying about whether it offends people. Only the truth is going to restore and get us on the proper course.
Well, that's right. And if you've ever had your money taken from you in a Gypsy 3-card Monte scam, and I have, I'll just be honest, then you know the scam works by misdirection. You're looking at one thing when the real action's happening outside the frame. And so you have to wonder, like, racism is a sin, clearly. Cruelty to other people, judgment of other people, those are sins. But they're not the only sins. And so you have to sort of wonder, like, why the emphasis on those sins, which are actually not really profound in this country. Having spent a lot of time abroad, I can tell you, you think we have racial problems. I mean, please. And we do, but they're nothing compared to most other countries, I would argue. No, I mean, two of the sins that are totally ignored that I do think are kind of wrecking the country are violence and greed. And those are never mentioned, ever. I mean, Washington worships violence. The majority of the discretionary federal budget goes to violence, $1 trillion, when actually we're not in danger of being invaded. Like, what is this? Where is that money going, actually? And the other thing is greed, which is closely related to it. Is it okay? When the mafia charged 20% interest, they went to jail under RICO statutes for loan sharking. Well, Citibank charges, 30% on a credit card, and it's totally fine, and you can't discharge it in bankruptcy, thanks to Joe Biden. So if I had to pick a villain, I would just say I think credit card companies cause a lot more misery than the KKK among people I know. I don't know anybody who's been hurt by the KKK. My entire town where I live has been destroyed by high-interest credit cards, and I know you're like not allowed to say that. I like saying it because it makes everybody uncomfortable, because it's true. Sorry if there are credit card executives present. I don't hate you personally, but like, we should be, right? We're talking about a certain set of things, so we won't talk about another set of things, okay? The second problem we have, I'll be quick, is that we allow the worst people in the world to occupy the moral high ground and stay there. And I learned this in college one summer when I went with a church group to build houses for poor people in Mississippi. And one of the places that we drove from New England to Mississippi, I'd never been in the Deep South before. It was wonderful, actually. I had all kinds of preconceptions about it. None of them were true. They do eat pig parts you shouldn't eat. I did learn that. But the people were great and super open-minded and friendly and Christian. But one of the things that shocked me most was the condition of a place called Selma, Alabama, which I'd heard so much about. And the famous confrontation on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, Bloody Sunday, and John Lewis, who I sort of knew because I was from D.C., was there and was badly injured and shouldn't have been. I'm not defending, okay, but that was kind of the pivot point in modern American history. Was that day, I think it was 1965, 60 years ago, on that bridge, in this town called Selma. It was 18,000 people-ish, 22,000, small town. I went to Selma. You ever been to Selma, Alabama? It's 85% black. And it's one of the poorest places in the state. And it's a disaster. And I was shocked by it. I was shocked. I was like, this is the town that sparked a liberation movement, but the people who live in the town are not only not liberated, they're like really suffering in poverty and disorder and crime. And so how are people in D.C. allowed to brag about Selma, Alabama when Selma, Alabama looks like this? And it's all black. What about the actual black people who live in Selma? No one cares about them. The name of their town has been hijacked. It's almost copyrighted at this point. Selma, and they get up there, was it Selma? Have you been to Selma in the last 60 years? Do you have some obligation to the people who live there? I think you do. You've profited from talking about them. You've done squat to help them. You're kind of a villain, aren't you, actually? You are. You are. It'd be like If I was talking about, a bunch of orphans that I'm taking care of, but I actually let them starve to death, I'm not really the good guy in that story, am I? No, I'm a creep who's using the suffering of other people to aggrandize myself and get rich. That's exactly what was happening. How did these people have the moral... I thought all of this in 1988 when I went to Selma. And I still think it now. How are they allowed, people who don't care at all about the actual human consequences of their policies, how do they get to brag about what great people they are? They should not be allowed to. And so maybe the first thing we need to do, if we're going to contend with people like that and reframe the conversation along lines that actually help people, actual people, not some abstract idea of people, but living people who you can, again, smell like they're right there. The first thing we need to do is not accept their terms. And their terms are always the same. I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy. No, you're not. You're a bad guy. And I'm not going to get bossed around by you anymore. Ever.
I saw you this week with either Megyn Kelly or Matt Walsh, and you said that you're no longer afraid or will tolerate being called a racist. That's harmless. But the anti-Semitic charge is impactful and is something to be concerned about. Could you elaborate what you were getting at? Why did you say that? Because I'm certainly in agreement with you, because I look on my Wikipedia page and suddenly out of nowhere, there's these anti-Semitic allegations against me, and I'm someone that, again, I didn't even know what Semitic was until maybe 5 years ago. But there's like these taboo topics that we cannot talk about, and you've been right at the forefront of it, from interviewing Daryl Cooper and Ian Carroll being on Joe Rogan's show. Either we believe in free speech, and either we believe in America first, and we have to be allowed to have uncomfortable conversations. And people can burn flags here, call America racist, and that's the whole... You can say anything you want about America. You got some criticisms about war in Israel. Next thing you know, you're anti-Semitic and you don't deserve a platform. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around it.
Well, I agree. And I mean, I think it is, first of all, it's hard ever to have your character impugned. What I meant when I said I'm used to being called racist, well, I am used to it. And I would always say, I'm not. I don't feel guilty about it. I don't have a ton of black friends, but I have several black friends, and first of all, I agree with them and everything. So it hasn't affected me at all. It's like, yeah, whatever. No, I'm not. You're calling me that, so I won't notice that you're stealing. I got it. I've never been called an anti-Semite in my life. I've never even really thought about it. And if I'm being totally blunt about it, I have a lot of Jewish friends. And a couple have called me and be like, is this true? Is what true? No? What? So I guess what I was trying to express, I probably shouldn't even have said it out loud, because you never want to admit that like a slur hurts you. And I don't even pay attention to most things people say about me. I never Google myself or watch myself ever. I mean that. But I have gotten texts and calls from actual friends of mine, like longtime friends of mine, who are like, they're saying really hurtful things and I'm really uncomfortable. I was like, whoa, that does hurt, because these people I know and really care about. So that infuriates me, as I tried to explain it. It's my position, super simple. I'm not that interested in talking about what's happening in the Middle East because I'm not that interested. I mean, I have views on it. I'm pretty opposed to violence, I'll just say that, okay, period, because I'm a Christian. On the other hand, I don't really want to get involved in critiquing other countries' behavior. My main concern is the United States being pulled into yet another war in the Middle East, one that will hurt this country a lot, and that's a war with Iran. Are you for Iran? No, I'm not a Shiite. I've never been to Iran, but I am an American. I was in Iraq, and I was in a bunch of other countries who we've had wars with in the last 20 years. I watched that whole thing unfold in person, and it really hurt this country a lot. And I'm upset about it, and I don't want it to happen again. And I'm convinced that the overwhelming majority of people who voted for Donald Trump agree with me. And one of the reasons they did vote for him is because they wanted the US government to focus on our country, which needs a lot of help, care, and attention. So it's kind of that simple, and it's with no hate toward. By the way, if I were Israel, I'd be super concerned about Iran. I wouldn't want them to get the bomb. I don't begrudge anybody. If I was Iran, I'd be mad about Israel. It's like, it's all fine. None of those are my countries. Obviously, I prefer Israel to Iran. Okay, but I'm stupid. I don't have hate toward anybody. I just want to focus on my country. That's it. And I will just say one other thing, which is the thing that actually does make me a little grumpy. Is there are a number of people who wound up in the conservative commentariat, people you see on the internet, like, I don't know who that is, but all of a sudden they're like speaking for me as a Trump voter. And almost all of them are like, became established because they came out against the tranny thing, the transgender thing. And they kind of appeared out of nowhere and they're like, I'm against this transgender insanity. Well, of course, any normal person would be. And then the next thing you know, they're using the authority, the trust that they gain from their audience by taking that position to set up a new set of speech codes that prevent me from saying what I think my country or my family has been for like 400 years should do with my money and our military. I'm not allowed to say that because why? And I've spent a ton of time out of this country, like a lot. I've traveled more than most people, for I spent like almost all winter out of the country, around the world, seeing stuff to try and learn what's happening. But I'm fundamentally only concerned with the long-term success of America because that's where I live and that's where my ancestors are buried, it's where my children are growing up. And I have an absolute, unabridgable right to say what I think America should do. What's good for America, what's bad for America. And to see people who call themselves conservatives or Trump voters or whatever try and set up guardrails that would prevent me from saying legitimate things about American foreign policy. I mean, I must say, this is happening at scale. There are a number of famous people who are doing it. Well, that's outrageous. You can't say, what? I can't offer an opinion on where I think we should go to war? As someone who's covered a bunch of wars and seen this stuff, has like been in Washington my whole life, I know how this works. I resent that. I'll just be honest. I try not to be resentful. I try to be cheerful, as you said. But wow, that gets me spun right up.
At my age now, I just turned 38 last week. I have figured out.
You look good for 38.
Thank you. We've demonized assimilation, and I don't understand why. Assimilation is a good thing in my view, and we've demonized it. And maybe because you've traveled so much, you can help me understand. And I mean this authentically, because you've traveled so much. Do other countries allow dual citizens to achieve high political office, where they have all of this influence over American politics? And again, I don't know if this guy's a dual citizen, but the guy that just popped up from out of nowhere that wants to impeach Trump, who doesn't seem to have, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I'm an American. This guy barely speaks English, and he wants to impeach Trump. How did we get here? How long has he been here? And it feels to me like we're the only country that allows people to move here, never give up their citizenship in another country, and then all of a sudden they're lawmakers and telling me and you what should go on in this country. I'm bothered by that.
Well, I mean, no real country would allow any dual citizenship at all, because you can't serve two masters, period, whether you're in authority or not. And so it's a binary, it's a choice. You have two options. Either you're a citizen of a country and you fully participate in the life of that country, you vote, which is the greatest power you have in a democracy. You're a shareholder, it's the annual meeting, and you lift your voice to say where you think the company should go, but you're an owner of the United States, or you're a guest. It's that simple. So, and I think, by the way, most people accept that intuitively as obvious. And if you said to most of the millions of dual citizens in this country, pick one, I think the overwhelming majority would pick the United States because it's the greatest country there is, and good for them. And I would be grateful to have them all as fellow citizens. But the idea that you can have a citizenship in 2 countries is freaking insane. I don't know who thought that up. And it's many countries, by the way. There's one that everyone talks about, but it's like a million different countries you can have dual citizenship in. And I just think it really affects how people think. The last thing I'll say is, since I'm not a voice of the working man, like I'm a rich guy actually, I spent a lot of time with rich people, and a lot of them do have other passports. They do. And if you travel a lot, people will offer you, well, you should get citizenship in this country. And it's like, no, I'm an American. If you have an escape route, you feel differently about your country. By the way, if I have a polygamous marriage and my wife is acting crazy, I just go next door to the next wife, the younger wife. I don't have to deal with the crazy wife. And by the way, dealing with the crazy wife is like the heart of marriage. That's how you understand. You force yourself to sit there and listen. I don't understand what you're saying. I think you're crazy. I don't have another wife, though, so I have to sit and listen. And then you realize, oh, she's not crazy, actually. She's got something really important to tell me. And then your love grows deeper and more real. And if you do that over decades, you find you are truly one flesh. That doesn't happen if you have another wife. That doesn't happen if you have another country. That's why the one thing we know about ship captains is they're the last ones off the boat, because it's their ship. They go down with it. That gives them every incentive to keep it afloat. There's just another ship and they alone can get off. They're obviously not going to check for leaks.
If this question is petty and you want to punt on
Oh, I love the petty ones.
Are you and Ben Shapiro going to sit down and talk on camera?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, by the way, I should, I don't hate Ben Shapiro at all. I respect Ben Shapiro. I think Ben Shapiro is smart and articulate. I agree with him on tons of stuff. Maybe not tons. I agree with him on some stuff. On the basics, I do. I agree with him. And he loves Israel. I like Israel. I'm not, there's not that big a difference really between us. I just don't think that we should get sucked into a foreign war on behalf of another country. I don't think it's I think it's much more complicated than some of our leaders claim to fight a war with Iran for a bunch of reasons I could bore you for 3 hours explaining, but that's my sincere conclusion. I could be wrong. He's got a different view. So there's not like any kind of blood feud or whatever. I've just pointed out that I think it's really important to, as a general orientation, to be more concerned about your own country than any other country. And I feel that way. And I don't think that's bigotry. It seems obvious.
I'm going to jump in that boat because I've gotten in trouble for suggesting, I only care about America. Ben, at the very least, cares about 2 countries. And I've been criticized for that. I don't get it, because if I had family in Ireland or somewhere and talked a bit about Ireland and someone said, well, man, it looks like Whitlock cares about Ireland and America, I wouldn't say you're being racist towards me. You're just making an observation and saying that I don't have dual concerns. I only have one. It's an outgrowth of the America First mindset. And anyway, let me pivot.
Well, that's kind of it. It's like if you disagree with someone, explain why, and have a real debate. Don't try. This is what the left does. They short circuit the debate by attacking your character. They don't want to hear what you have to say. You're a racist. You're a bad person. You shouldn't even be heard. You haven't met the decency threshold to talk. Okay, shut up. They explain, and I find that loathsome. I find it an offense against reason. I find it an offense against human dignity. I'm an adult man. I have a right to say what I think. If you disagree, tell me how. Like, that's how rational people behave. The left does not behave that way. It's why I haven't debated a liberal in so long, because I can't find any who will even talk to me because I'm a bad person. I grieve at the amount of that kind of nonsense I see on the right, including perhaps from the person you mentioned, where it's like, oh, he must have some sinister reason, maybe deep in his heart he's an evil person. It's like, really? No. I mean, maybe I am an evil person. I probably am kind of an evil person in a lot of ways. I'm not a great person. I never pretend to be a great person. But why don't you assess what I just said? Why don't you debate the merits of the issue? Why do you go immediately to impugning the person you're debating as a person rather than responding to the points he made? That's incredibly low. It's a virus, and it's infecting our side all of a sudden. So, like, if you think we should have a war with Iran, tell me why. Let's have a conversation about it. But they never will. Oh, we're not going to have a war with Iran. We're just going to take care of the Houthis. Stop lying. You don't care about the Houthis. And by the way, who are the Houthis? I'm pretty informed. I never heard of the Houthis till like 20 minutes ago. And now there's like a Houthi at the end of my block waiting to hit me in the head with a tire iron. Shut up. The Houthis have never done anything to me. We don't have even meaningful trade going through the Suez Canal. You're lying. And you're trying to choose my enemies. That's the other thing I can't stand. It's like someone decides who I should be mad at. No, I'm an adult man and a taxpayer. I'll decide who I'm mad at. I'll decide who I like and dislike. Period. Both on a personal level. You can't like Jason Whitlock. Well, I do anyway. How's that? You can't like Vladimir Putin. Says who? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But I'm not going to take instructions from you on who I like any more than I'm going to take instructions on what kind of ice cream flavor I prefer. Like, buzz off, pal. I have my own opinions. How dare you tell me who I'm required to hate? Is there a federal law that I have to hate somebody? I have to hate the Houthis? How about no? And it almost, last thing I'll say, it's like, I'm so resistant to that it almost makes me want to say, you know, I kind of love the Houthis. But I don't. I mean, I don't really know anything about the Houthis. And God willing, I will never learn. I'm going to refuse to learn about the Houthis. I'm going to refuse to have an informed opinion about the Houthis. I will continue to make fun of the name Houthi, just to show you how little respect I have for your attempt to control my brain. Up yours.
I've watched you.
We love you, Doctor. Well, I love you too. I can't see you, but
Watching you crisscross the globe, meet with foreign leaders, there's part of me that says, oh man, this is great presidential prep. This is someone that could be president of the United States one day. Does that ever cross your mind?
literally not for 1 second. I couldn't get elected to an empty congressional seat in an uncontested election in North Dakota. I am not suited for that. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't want that. If I wanted it, if I was the sort of person who looked in the mirror and said, out of 350 million Americans, I'm the most qualified to lead, I hope my wife would shoot me and make it look like an accident. Because I just find that so disgusting. I am not qualified to be president. Let me say it again. I'm not qualified to be president. I was not qualified to host a show on Fox News, it turned out. So I don't think I'm going to be president. I don't want to be president. I don't have the skills necessary to become president. If I'm president, move.
Do y'all believe that?
Well, I believe it. Trust me.
I'm living in a world right now where people are pretending like Stephen A. Smith would be a good candidate for president. And you're telling me Tucker Carlson isn't qualified to be president?
Does he have 3 daughters? Because I do. And the joke in my house is if I ever write a memoir, it's going to be called The Carlson Girls Are Not Impressed. And my girls are so concerned about the rise of egomania in my heart that no matter what I say, they're like, oh yeah, okay, pretty impressive, all right. If I came home and I'm like, I cured cancer, they'd be like, oh, cancer, oh, Mr. Cancer Cure, cure a little cancer, ooh, wow, I'm really impressed. I was in the car with one of my girls on a college tour, And I never talk to them about my job. They never ask. I barely know what I do. And I get a call from, on my phone, sitting in the back of this car, from Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm like, okay, this is a high school senior. She's probably heard of Mark Zuckerberg because he's like an internet guy. Maybe this will impress her. So I get my phone and I'm like, it says Mark Zuckerberg. And she goes, ew! And I said, you don't like Mark Zuckerberg? And she goes, why is he calling you? It's so important to have people like that in your life who love you but are not impressed. And I don't think Stephen A. Smith has any of those people.
He's got Bob Iger puppet strings on his back. I'm looking at people like Bill Maher, who is positioning himself as an honest broker and someone that can see both sides. Should I buy it, or is this just a business decision?
Bill Maher?
I don't buy it, but I'm just asking you. It seems like it's a gimmick. He went to the White House with Kid Rock, and they had dinner, and he talked about it, and he said something halfway positive about Trump. Is this just a business decision, or?
He's one of the most unwise people I've ever met. And I don't mean that as an attack. I mean, I feel sorry for him. He's almost 70 years old and has accrued no wisdom in his life. And that's what I respect in people, particularly men, women too. I respect wisdom, not knowledge, not glibness, a deep understanding of the way people are and the way the world works. That's what I really, really care about. Who've got priorities that are real, that are enduring. Because our lives are not enduring. Our lives will be forgotten. Our graves will be unvisited, actually, over time. We will not count in history. But understanding that, understanding just how little power you have, understanding that what really matters is what comes after this. Like, those are the roots of wisdom, and I feel like he has none of that at all. So I don't listen to a single word he says ever.
It's not to beat up on Maher, but I will take a couple of shots here. The Bible is the source of all wisdom, and you can be really smart without the Bible, but you cannot be wise. And so when I see someone like Maher who loves to mock Christianity but loves all the benefits of America's Christian founding. And these guys, this is where I give Adam Carolla credit. He's agnostic, I believe, but he's willing to say, I'd rather live next door to a Christian person than virtually anybody else. And Maher is starting to figure out, like, there is no free speech without Christianity.
Huh, that's for sure.
We are so tolerant and forgiving, and we can laugh at ourselves because we accept how effed up we are. And the godless leftists take themselves so seriously. They think they're God, and that's why they get offended if they get criticized or mocked or made jokes about. But, yeah, so I totally agree with you about Bill Maher, and I've occasionally enjoyed his program.
You got to feel sorry for people like that, though. Like, in the end, it's all fun. You're rich, tons of hot, 22-year-old girlfriends and everything. So fun. And then you get, like, Parkinson's, or you get old. You know what I mean? And there's nobody there, and, like, you don't believe anything, and there's just a blankness ahead of you, and, like, you're terrified. You're terrified. Imagine being an atheist on your deathbed. Having just, seen people die in the last couple of years, and we all have seen people die. Like, you don't want to be that person, and we should feel compassion. I mean it, too. I'm not being patronizing, I'm being sincere.
First 100 days of Trump, should we be thrilled? Should we be nervous? How have we gotten what we asked for?
Well, we definitely got what we asked for. We asked for Donald Trump. We got Donald Trump. I think the main thing we didn't want was Kamala Harris. You know, it's a choice between two people. I mean, I know Trump personally, and I love Trump, and I find Trump hilarious. I find his instincts like incredible. There's so much about Trump that I love, but I think that my fear of not just Kamala, I didn't actually have any feelings for Kamala Harris. I did think that the guy she was running with was the single creepiest human being I've ever seen in my life. Every one of my canine senses went off. If that guy tried to lead my kid's Boy Scout troop, I would get my gun, and I mean that. But she was just a cipher. She was just picked out of a crowd because she met, you know, it was almost like a lineup or a casting call in Hollywood. It's like, oh, 5'10", you know, speaks with a Spanish accent. It's like they were just like casting someone, they picked her. She was kind of a hapless bystander, and that was, you could see it in her face. She's like, what am I doing here? You know, it was like the poor woman. I felt sorry for her. She was miscast, it turned out. But I didn't want the Democratic machine to win. Those people are really, really scary. They have no beliefs. In their meetings, they don't decide the best way to sell their ideas. They figure out what ideas will sell best. They approach life backwards because they're hollow and all they care about is power. And anyone whose chief aim is to wield power should not wield power. And they were really close to doing it. So I thank God that Trump won. The first 100 days, I mean, there have been all kinds of awesome things that have happened. I'm from the Perfectionist Caucus because I don't run anything, and I spent my whole life on the sidelines criticizing the players, which I love. It's so much better than actually risking something. It's better just to make fun of other people for falling short of your goals. I've made millions doing that, and I never want to stop. So like asking me how anyone does is like, it's hard because I'm like so bitchy. But I would just say again, I think Donald Trump's instincts are correct. I think he knows who his voters are. I think he knows how hurting the country is, and it really is hurting, actually. Most of the pain is economic, but it's also cultural, and I think he could do a lot to fix it. He will not be able to fix any of it if we're sucked into a greater conflict in Eastern Europe or in the Middle East. So from my perspective, preventing this administration from being destroyed because other people with other motives and other aims want to use the power of the United States to fight wars that don't help us at all. That is like my number one goal. He will have no chance to do the things he ran on, to do the things that he wants to do the things that America needs him to do if we are distracted and further bankrupted by wars in countries that do not threaten us. The last thing I'll say, remember, the core of America, two parts to it. They're the people who are the sweetest people in the world. They love animals. They give directions to strangers. They're the kindest people, okay? And the second hemisphere in America is the land itself. It's our nation. It's the physical landmass of the United States, which is the prettiest country in the world. And it's pretty because it's unspoiled, and it's unspoiled because it's separated by the Atlantic on one side and the Pacific on the other from the rest of the world, from the crowded, dangerous countries, okay? That's why we've been allowed, by God's grace, to build everything we built, because we're protected, because we haven't had to fight off invasion every 20 minutes. We're not Hungary. We're not Ukraine. We're not a flat country in the middle of a dangerous neighborhood. We're not Israel. We're the United States. That's our core advantage. Our natural bounty, our water, our farmland, our energy, our mountains, Purple Mountain's majesty, our ski slopes, our beaches. Those are the greatest things we have. And we have them because we don't have to fight off invasions. We are not in danger of being invaded except by migrants over our borders. There is no army that's going to invade us, okay? So let's never forget that. Geography is destiny, and we have the most blessed geography of any nation on the planet. And so when our leaders tell you that we're going to be invaded by the Houthis, you tell them to shut up and fix the roads. The Houthis are not coming here. Shut up and fix the roads. Why am I paying 30% on my MBNA card? Seriously. Stop talking. It's not in Tennessee. Thank you. You've got usury laws here, as every state should. But the point is, we should use our natural advantage, and that is physical isolation from the lunatics in the rest of the world, to make our country better. And if they derail this administration on that, I will never stop being angry about it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You know, you've seen these. Tucker's got these. White fibrous clots that involvers have been pulling out of corpses for the last 4 years, folks. They're all started after the COVID jabs came out.
I'm with you, baby.
Trump, there's rumors of Trump in a third term. Is that real, or is that just something to...
One of the best things about Trump, and maybe also one of the more difficult things about Trump, is that he's like I am in this way. He loves to trigger the libs. He just can't control himself. He just loves to like spin them into a frenzy of rage and paranoia. And the fastest way to do that is be like, maybe I'll become Mussolini. You don't know. Maybe I'll actually get like a black cape with a golden eagle clasp in the front. Declare myself emperor on the steps of the Capitol as a parade of nuclear weapons rolls slowly past. Crown myself emperor for eternity. It could happen. Stay tuned. It's so good. And I don't think he... I'm not sure. I really think he ran for president because he felt cheated. And I think he thinks he had real work to do, and he felt he had to save the country. I mean that from talking to him. I really mean it. Sounds silly, but I think that's actually real. I don't think he ran for president again because he loved being stuck in the White House. It's a really hard job. Does he want another 4 years of that? Maybe. I don't think so. And so I think he's honestly saying that to get the effect that it's had, which is like 1,000 MSNBC segments about dictatorship. I'm just guessing.
Again, maybe this is the cynicism in me, but I think the left wants it so that they can have Barack Obama run for a third term against him, and they honestly believe that would trigger the race war that they're looking for.
Man, that's so dark. And I hope not. I mean, I'll say this. I do not believe this country will ever have actual racial conflict between blacks and whites. I mean, and by blacks, I mean African Americans whose ancestors have been here for hundreds of years, and whites whose ancestors have been here for hundreds of years. Those two groups disagree on a lot, but they're both fundamentally American, and I don't think that they can force us into conflict with each other. I just don't believe that. But I think Obama, who's not in either one of those groups, who's like not rooted in the history of this country, I do think he's like discredited. I think his party's mad at him. I think he's rich. I do think, he's got issues at home. I think he's got personal...
You believe that?
Oh, his wife hates him.
Really?
I've never seen if my wife talked about me the way if my wife criticized me in any... I'm obviously too dependent on my wife and her approval. I'll just admit that. If my wife talked about me the way that she talks about him, I'd probably shoot myself. I couldn't handle that. Every single interview, she's like, well, he's not who you think he is. Well, yeah, he's gay. Okay, got it. Or whatever she's saying. No, I'm serious. You listen to her, and you see in her disappointment and contempt. And I'm not attacking her. I feel sorry for her. He's clearly fallen short in some really hard to deal with way. I'm a student of wifely anger, okay? I've experienced very little of it because I've gone way out of my way to make sure I never get to a place where my wife's mad at me. I just don't want that, okay? Like, it's my job to make my wife happy. It is, I mean that, and I feel that really strongly. That's like probably my number one priority in life.
You just triggered me, Tucker.
Dude, he blew it.
You just triggered me.
I did?
Your wife won't watch this, will she? Because I don't want her bad.
My wife has never been on the internet a single time in her
awesome.
life. No.
Awesome.
Unless you put this on the Hallow app.
One of the biggest mistakes we make as men and just as people, we think this is a pursuit of happiness, just life. We're marriage in particular is about the pursuit of holiness.
Yes.
That's a holy institution.
True.
Your job is to make your wife holy because her instincts are not to be holy. Your instincts aren't to be holy either, but you should be following God. But the pursuit of happiness is why we're in so much trouble. Everybody wants to be happiness is so fleeting, it's so unimportant. Holiness, the pursuit of eternity with Jesus Christ, is the pursuit of holiness.
So we may be saying the same thing. I think, and Jesus does address this quite explicitly. The fruit of holiness is joy.
Yes, joy.
And super clear about that. And I think in a marriage, what a woman's looking for many things, and sometimes she doesn't know what she's looking for. But two of the
She doesn't.
Well, none of us do. What are we really looking for? I don't know. But I think providing, protecting, clear decisions, kindness, respect, like these are ingredients in any relationship, but they are central to the marriage relationship. And if you do those things, you will have a content wife. What you don't want is Michelle Obama under any circumstances. And anytime, right, well, there's that. I won't even address that. But that woman is so unhappy with him that that's a failure of his leadership. I'm just saying. It is. He failed her in the same way he failed America. And I don't think anyone wants that again. They're going to have to make up a new fraud to lead us astray this time.
I probably got one or two more questions. I'm going to let you go. But is Mark Taylor still here? Matt, is Mark Taylor still here? Because we went out and got you a special gift. Matt Swanson, can you help me? Is Mark Taylor here? Yeah, Mark, come on up. And Tiffany, where's my gift that we got for Tucker? Here comes Tiffany. So Matt Swanson, who you were talking to backstage.
Fellow Swede from California.
Yeah, he's a great guy, big supporter of me and the show, and loves you. And so Matt's kind of an expert on, I was like, what do you get Tucker Carlson for a gift? How do you thank him for, coming here to Nashville and doing this for me? And we'll get him a gun. I was like, get him a gun.
I got a lot of guns.
You got a lot of guns. What you don't have is what Mark Taylor sold me this week. Mark, I'm gonna let you explain this because I can't. It's something out of Game of Thrones. But let me give you a mic. You need a microphone, Mark. Here we go. I'm gonna hand you my mic.
Sure. All right. So, can you guys hear me?
Talking to the mic, we can hear you.
I don't do a lot of these public speaking.
I'm sorry. Matt Swanson told me you were great, that you wanted to come up here and sing a country song, play the guitar. Where's Matt at? Matt misled me. Where is Matt? Matt's got the biggest beard in here, and I can't sing.
Actually, once you hold this for me, because I'm going to have to open this up. So, Mr. Carlson, this is a Heretic knife. This is a custom. It's made by Anthony Marfione Jr. out of Sebastian, Florida. So, you've got, this is beautiful. So
Cost me a lot of money. Let's just cut to the chase here.
It did cost that. So, this is a
That is so cool.
This is a stainless steel body, mother of pearl inlay.
Oh, and it's got a Damascus steel blade.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was expecting Mark
I have
to say.
shotguns like this.
Matt, you told me this guy's an expert. He's got a knife shop, gun shop. What's the
That
name of
is incredible.
Yeah.
That is so. Look at the action. I used to buy these in Tijuana as a child. They were nothing like this. Any of you who are at Camp Pendleton know what I'm talking about. That is so cool. Bless you. Thank you.
So that's not all.
Look at that.
All right.
So all you gotta do is pull that button. It goes back in. Push that back. Put it down. There you go.
West Side Story, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me put that in here. Are you going to Mark Moore's reception tomorrow, by the way?
No, I'm going to F1 in Miami tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Mark told me to tell you hi then.
Oh, he texted me. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got an engagement party tonight.
G told me to tell you hi. Okay, so this is actually from us in a company called Medford Knives, because Greg Medford.
Are you trying to top my gift, Mark?
No. This is well beyond. No, but Greg wants to be on your show.
Gotcha.
So anyway, he wanted to give you this.
I love it already.
So this is from Greg Medford and myself. It is something he wants you to actually use and go out in the field and hunt with.
I do hunt a lot. Oh! Well, that is amazing. We'd skin a moose with that. Actually, you could shave with that.
Any of you guys watch Game of Thrones?
That is so cool.
Trying to hunt with that. That's how King Robert Baratheon got killed in Game of Thrones.
That is so cool, and it's like,
There you go.
oh,
There you go.
thank you. That is awesome.
My card's in there.
That will be on my side full time.
Yeah, just don't duck hunting with that. Carry it.
Go duck hunting.
Duck hunting with that.
Skin my ducks.
But if you need any information or want anything else about these things, just hit me up. I got my contact.
That is so nice. Thank you, truly.
Thank you so
I
much.
really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you.
So much. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, truly. I'm going to be the most menacing man in Maine.
Information.
Thank you.
Emily, are you here? Can we grab this stuff to make sure Tucker doesn't leave it? Emily can grab this stuff for someone from Tucker's team.
It'll
Tucker,
be a long morning at TSA tomorrow otherwise. I've never checked a bag in my entire life, and I'm almost 56. Period.
final question, Tuck. 5 years from now, you say you're not running for president. What are you going to be doing 5 years from now? What are you trying to accomplish?
I want to be useful. That's my prayer. I want to be useful. I have no plans. I've never had a plan in my life. You can ask Emily. I have no idea where I'm having dinner tomorrow. I don't believe in planning at all. It's actually a deep life philosophy of mine. You know, you go out without any... I mean, I'm a big believer in traveling light. I don't think you can foresee what happens, and I think that you should have faith that you're being guided on the right path. So my goal is the same as my prayer, which is make me useful. I want to be useful. In my work life, I have no idea what manifestation that will assume. I'm mostly interested in grandchildren and dogs are my main loves. So I want more of both. I want a lot of both. And my goal long term, like my only goal, and I've had this since I was a child, is I want to sit at the head of a long table at family dinners. And I'm never going to get hearing aids. I'm already partly deaf in one ear from shooting. When I was a child, my father was just break the filter off your Marlboro and stick it in your other ear, and you'll be fine. It doesn't work, it turns out. So I'm never getting hearing aids, but actually I'm not interested in hearing everything, I've decided. And I'll be sitting there with like all my descendants down the table, and they'll be like chatting and talking, and no one's really going to consult me. They'll sort of nod, and I want to be the patriarch. That's what I want. And I've always wanted that my whole life. And I measure by volume. Like the ancient Israelite kings, it's about volume. It's about scale. It's not just about the character of the children, it's about the number of the children. I mean that.
Tucker, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always good to me when you're at Fox News. You let me come on and trigger people. I love that. But, you know, people still are upset with me. You remember the jokes I cracked on Nancy Pelosi's husband?
Very well.
People still reach out. They're still angry with me about that. How could you make fun of an old man that got beat up while trying to have gay sex?
Well, there's something funny. We actually, since my family's originally from San Francisco, we, through a long chain of events, we knew them, not intimately or anything, but both the Pelosi's. He's a very charming guy. I always like Paul Pelosi. Kind of apolitical and just a guy, just, hey, man, you know, just nice, right? And she's obviously not. And so that all happened, and I got home, and I tried to explain to my wife, and she goes, oh, he's naughty. And I said, how do you know that? And she goes, oh, I always felt that. He's naughty. I'm not surprised at all. Women are so intuitive, man. They know.
Tucker Carlson, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Those of you that have the red wristbands that were part of our VIP, we have VIP gifts for you. TJ, are we still bringing them out here? Yeah, we got VIP gifts for you. If you got the red wristbands. Okay, hold for 1 second. Thank you, Julie. I do want to thank and we'll thank him again tomorrow, but some of you guys won't be there tomorrow. Matt Swanson, one of our primary sponsors for the event tonight, want to thank him. Daryl Carter, I believe Daryl's still here. I believe Daryl's still here. Thank you so much, Daryl. Chris Talley has provided us all these great VIP gifts you're going to get. Once again, Preborn and Dan Steiner. I think their booth is still at the back. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I do want to end this with a prayer at Julie Beeman's request. So if we could quiet down for 1 second, I'll end this with a brief prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this event being so wonderful and so pleasant and so safe. I hope we honored you with the honesty of our conversation and the truthfulness of our conversation. We beg your forgiveness for Steve Burns' inappropriate jokes. I'll do better next time. I love Steve. I know you love Steve. And thank you for all the people that came here from out of town to help me. I know Pastor Doug Wilson's here. I know Pastor Alan Jackson. Anthony Walker's here. Corey Brooks and those guys from Chicago just landed. Just thank you, Father, for everyone's safe travel, for having such a fun, engaging, safe night. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.